Before Arlington became the nation's great meadow of memory, before those marble rows marched in soldier state formation across the Virginia hills, there was another place, a quieter place, a place born not of vision, but of crisis. This is where the earliest Union dead of the Civil War were buried, a sanctuary carved out in the Capitol's darkest hour. A cemetery older than Arlington, older than the idea of Arlington, America's first true attempt at honoring its fallen on a national scale. Welcome to the United States Soldiers and Airmen's Home National Cemetery, the forgotten ancestor of every national cemetery that followed. Now, before anyone asks, no, I didn't get to explore the grounds that day. The cemetery sits inside the wider Armed Forces Retirement Home property, and access can be unpredictable. Some days the pedestrian gate is open. Some days it isn't. The rest of the grounds are off limits without permission, and trust me, the gate guard made that painfully clear earlier on in the trip. So this mission was more observational. 3 photos from the road, a whole lot of respect, and a promise to come back someday when the gatekeeper gods allow. Thanks, Murph. July 1861. The Civil War erupts into chaos at the First Battle of Bull Run, and Washington, D.C. shudders beneath the shock of its first major defeat. Hospitals overflow. Churches, warehouses, and even boarding houses become makeshift wards. Surgeons work with trembling hands in rooms lit by lanterns, and with the wounded came the dead. The federal government had no burial plan, no system, no dedicated land, not even a policy. Earlier wars could be tucked into churchyards or family plots, but this was industrial-scale war, and Washington was running out of ground. Just 3 miles north of the White House sat the U.S. Military Asylum, known today as the Armed Forces Retirement Home. Its commissioners, watching the crisis unfold, made an offer of almost aching patriotism. They would grant part of their land to bury the soldiers dying in the city's hospitals. The government accepted immediately, and in late July 1861, burials began. Nearly 3 years before Arlington opened, this hillside became the first national burial ground created explicitly for the Civil War. Born of necessity, baptized in urgency, a cemetery before the nation fully understood what the war would cost. Through the long years of war, this cemetery filled with astonishing speed. Men from 17 Union states, many marked only with wooden headboards, many others known solely to God. Around 100 Confederate prisoners of war were buried here as well, a stark reminder that death made no distinction in its silence. And watching this unfold, sometimes literally, was Abraham Lincoln. During the summers of 1862, 1863, and 1864, Lincoln lived in Lincoln's Cottage, the Gothic revival retreat on the grounds of the Soldiers' Home. From its porch, you could look across the rolling hills toward the cemetery. His daily commute took him past contraband camps, past ambulances, and past those fresh graves. Imagine the weight of that. The commander-in-chief riding past each morning, knowing exactly what his decisions cost. Historians believe that in this atmosphere, this blend of quiet refuge and constant mourning, Lincoln shaped the ideas that became the Emancipation Proclamation. On September 22, 1862, while living at the Soldiers' Home, in the shadow of death, he drafted new life for millions. By 1864, this cemetery was nearing capacity. With no more room and no end to the war in sight, the government turned to Arlington. On May 13th, the first soldier was buried there, and with that, the Soldiers' Home Cemetery completed its grim original mission. The war ended, but the cemetery's legacy deepened, thanks largely to one man, Major General John A. Logan, a volunteer officer who rose to command the Army of the Tennessee, became head of the Grand Army of the Republic, the most powerful Union veterans organization in the country. On May 5, 1868, Logan issued General Order No. 11, calling for a national day to decorate the graves of Union soldiers. He didn't invent the custom, but he crystallized it, gave it a date, a name, a purpose. May 30, Decoration Day. A day of cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead. The first major official observance under this order was held at Arlington, but Logan's heart, and ultimately Logan himself, returned here. When he died in 1886, he was laid to rest in a grand granite mausoleum near the cemetery entrance. The man who gave America its day of remembrance rests in the very ground that helped inspire it. You could call this place the philosophical birthplace of Memorial Day. In the decades after the war, the cemetery expanded, first in 1883, then again in spirit as the nation healed. In 1900, the remains of the Confederate POWs originally buried here were respectfully moved to Arlington's Section 16, dedicated to them. Today, the Soldiers and Airmen's Home National Cemetery holds more than 14,000 veterans, spanning every major conflict from the Civil War to the present day. Among them are recipients of the Medal of Honor, including Sergeant Thomas Boyne, a Buffalo soldier who fought in the Indian Wars. Its grand entrance, Doric columns etched with names like Washington, Scott, and Grant, feels like stepping through a threshold of American memory. And unlike Arlington, this cemetery is now reserved almost exclusively for residents of the Armed Forces Retirement Home, a community of veterans who live their final years beside the very soil where so many of their brothers in arms rest. It remains one of only 2 national cemeteries still maintained by the Department of the Army. The other, of course, is Arlington. Arlington may be America's most hallowed ground, but the story of national remembrance starts here, in a quiet corner of Washington where desperation met duty. This cemetery was the first answer to the awful question of how a nation honors its fallen. It shaped Lincoln's thinking. It nurtured the idea that became Memorial Day. And it stands today as the humble, sacred forerunner of every national cemetery that followed. A forgotten beginning, a cradle of American memory, a place where the first soldiers of a national tragedy found rest, and where a new way of honoring the fallen was born. If this hidden chapter of American history stirred something in you, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and let the stories keep rolling. In the comments, tell us, what forgotten sites should we uncover next? TMP Covert Ops, mission accomplished.